Okay, so we've got our new scene file now. Let's start by getting rid of the timeline at the bottom. We don't need that, so I'm going to drag down to make it a full screen. And in order to be able to sculpt something, if we try and sculpt this cube, let's just have a quick look at it in wireframe mode. And we'll turn off X-ray so we can't see through it. You'll notice we don't really have many subdivisions. We've only got one face for each side of the cube. And in order for sculpt mode to work, if I try and sculpt this now, let's go back into solid view. I use some of the sculpt tools we've got over here. For example, let's try the draw tool. If I try and draw there, nothing's going to happen. It can only draw where there are vertices. So we've only got vertices on the corner there. So you see if I can actually make that move now. Okay, so what we need to do, I'll just undo that, is go back into the object mode. And I'm going to add a subdivision modifier. So Control 4 is going to automatically add a subdivision modifier for us, and we can see that in the modifiers panel here. And if I now apply this by either hovering the mouse over here and pressing Control A, or right click and I'll choose Convert to Mesh, and that will automatically get rid of any modifiers that we've got in the stack. And the reason it's important to apply that subdivision modifier is because if you leave the modifier there, the subdivisions aren't actually on the geometry. So sculpt mode won't see them. You've got to apply it in order for sculpt mode to see them, because it basically will work on whatever you've got in edit mode. And again, if you don't apply a modifier, it doesn't affect edit mode. But as we can see, we've still not got a great deal of subdivision. So what I'm going to do is go into sculpt mode, and I'm going to bring up the tool panel on the right hand side by pressing N. And under the tools options, come down to remesh. We've got the ability to remesh this instead of using a subdivision modifier, using a voxel remesh, which basically means it will uniformly slice up the mesh based on a 3D grid. And we can set the size of that 3D grid using the options we've got on the side there. Let me show you what I mean. So we can try and do it here, but the problem is if we do it there, we don't get any visual representation of how small the new faces are going to be. So we can press R, and then we can get a visual representation. If we drag down now, we can change this to a size that we like, and then press Control R, and it's now added more divisions. We can't see them unless we go into wireframe mode. So you can see this is the sort of effect we get. It's not just subdividing it and keeping the existing topology, it's just slicing them up uniformly based on that 3D grid. Right, so let's look at some of the tools we've got available to us in the sculpt mode. So make sure you've got a subdivided sphere set up and you've subdivided it further with the voxel remesh. And as we go through the next section and cover the different options we've got, make sure you pause the video regularly and try out the different options as I cover them.